Well, look what's back. The thermostat, he wants the thermostat changed. He's cold natured and he's wanting something a little hotter to keep him warm. The column that we were just in, you know, when we first tore into this thing, I knew something was wrong, but anyway, something's broke inside now, and it won't even work the turn signals. The gas gauge works, but it's not, the sending unit is not reading right, and speedometer needs to be unhooked because it's squealing. So something's wrong with speedometer in the cluster, in the tail shaft, or in the cable or something like that. But he's kind of leaning towards, you know, buying a new cluster. And he looked at me and he said, "Man, you can really dump a lot in these old trucks." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "If you dig in my yard, you're gonna find worms." So that's kind of where we're at. The more you dig in them to try to make them right, and it's not charging. So we put this new voltage regulator and all on it, but it's quit. Something's happened. So let's get started, see what we got. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend it. I bought it off the corn-wheel truck. You can buy them on Amazon. That thing right there, we have used it. Mini vac model. Right there's the model number and all. But you can suck your fluids out and get it below that hose without having to drain it down here and making such a mess. And see, now you can see what's contained in there. You can see it shake. And then all I got to do is just pump it right back in there. One pump that out. And I'll give it a few more pumps, and that will get it sucked out of my line. Should be good enough down in there that I can take this loose. Now there's probably going to be some in this neck. What I'll do is I'll take this loose and I'll run the hose down in there and I'll suck it out as much as I can out of the intake. That way it don't just make such a mess. New thermostat is installed. Antifreeze was pumped back in. Hey, there's one more tool. What to do with that? His old thermostat. Let's see what that one was. Oh, that was a 180. Wow. Huh, that's odd. To have been a 180 and not warming up for him. Huh, that's strange. Well, listen, there's one more tool that I wanted to recommend to you that I scraped off the gasket. And that's one of these carbide scrapers. You can get them at O'Reilly. Where's the number at? It just says wear eye protection, but you know what they are. They're made by, what is it, Lyle, I think? Carlisle or Lyle. They work good. I scraped the intake and all off because I didn't drag a hose down here. The housing, they had glued the gasket and all to it, so I scraped about 3/4 or so of it off, maybe 7/8 of it off. It was just a little bit left, and I carried it up there and cleaned it up with the die grinder. Let's jump in here to this, get this off, and look down inside and see what's broken. This right here was loose, and it's still got some play, but as you can see, this whole column. I don't know how to. I can tighten those. I wonder if those are tightened up. Anyway, when you turn the signals on, it works, but then the column housing moves before it will. See how it's doing before it cuts off? Plus somebody's been in there with an axe, don't it? I'll see if I can tighten up that other screw. I would like to be able to get in there and, you know, try to fix this. When it come, you know, he was talking about a new steering wheel and all that, and I thought, well, if he goes with a new steering wheel, we'll be able to get in there and fix all that. But I mean, to take that column and stuff out, I don't see no sense in that. Old truck runs and drives good. But you know, I put a new wiring harness, a turn signal switch harness in there, so you have to unhook it and pull all that back out. But it is what it is. We'll see if we can fix it. If not, we may have to pull it all back out. Can y'all see that open spot back there where the light's shining? See my finger? All right, look at how it opens left and right. It's wore out. So many years it has been moving that it's actually, I can see that it's wore out. So I got me a small screw. I think I'm going to try to run down in there and hold that to one side, because if not, you know, he's gonna have to buy, plus this thing it's not even round. It's kind of egg shaped. If I don't, I mean, this temporary fix may last another year. May not work at all. I haven't even tried it yet, but I'm gonna try it, and that will prolong the usage of the truck instead of buying new. Change of plans. Right there. I took the Allen key, or whatever you call them, and I cut that off. That will fit down in that space, as you can see off to the right, and it can't come out. Well, I guess it could over a period of time, but the way it tapers down at the back, it shouldn't never fall out. Now, I'm not trying to hide any of this because the owner of this truck watches the channel, but this here will save him whatever the column cost, plus either him and his grandson or son or me or somebody putting it in and being aggravated, or if he has to pay us to do it, it's going to cost even more. So this here, if I can get this down in there and peck it in tight, it should hold that just right. Stay tuned. Well, that was a success. See if I can get the light and shine on it to where you can see down in there. See that little gold piece off to the side? That's that Allen key. Pecked it in there. Check this out. It all works now without wobbling. So that will hold him. Should be for many, many moons. Let's put this thing back together. So we came back to the shop, or I came back to the shop, and I tested the generator. It wasn't charging. It would maintain, how do I say that? If it's not charging, it's not charging, I guess is probably the best way to just put it. We had put a new voltage regulator on it while it was here, and checked the generator while it was off, and it was showing like 16, 17 volts, and that's what the regulator does. But anyway, it quit working. And I mean, that's the way it is. When stuff comes here, it's like it quits working. But anyway, he's going to get a 1-wire alternator, and we're going to get him converted over. So he left because he took the generator and he had it checked out. We've got a local guy that is he's brilliant on electric motors or generators. That's all that is. So the armature was bad, and he told Donnie, he says, you might as well just put a 1-wire alternator on it. So he's going to get me a 1-wire alternator, and we're going to try to figure out the brackets to go for it. Anyway, he left, and speedometer, either it's bad on the inside or in the tail shaft. Well, you know, the Boss Mustang, it was bad in the tail shaft, and that means you had to break it apart and change the, is it the driven gear or the drive gear that's on the actual shaft? They have a driven and a drive, but I can't remember because I don't try to keep that stuff in my head. And I told him, and he said, well, he says, I can do without the speedometer for a little while, but I would like to have my gas gauge to work right. Well, okay. So we need a sending unit. So to give you a good example, if you turn, let me get you in where you can see. When you turn it on, it goes up. It was going to full, and I tell you what happened is he brought me this truck with the wiring burn up. Y'all remember? And me and Dylan put it all back together and rewired it. Well, I had took a video of how the back of that was wired, and I wired it back up the same way, assuming that it was right. I know what assuming gets you. It gets you in trouble. Well, when you turn the ignition on, the gas gauge would go past full. Well, to troubleshoot that, I went online, and it said that if you unhook it back here at the gas sending unit, unhook the wire and touch it to ground, it will make the gauge go to empty if the gauge is good. So I would try that, and that didn't work. Well, I read another forum that the guy showed for a car, and the wires were different. And I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe the person before me wired it up wrong. Well, they did. I swapped the wires, and now when I touch this sending unit wired to ground, watch what it does. It goes out. It goes to E. Let me get you in here where you can. See, that gauge is about 3/4, and it goes to empty. All right, so with it doing that, since the wiring is correct on the back side now, that means that the sending unit is bad. So what I done is I took another sending unit that I had here. It's actually for a different gas tank. The ohms and stuff may be different, but anyway, it would register up till a half a tank on this one. So I'm going to get him a new sending unit ordered and on the way. It's always something here at the shop, y'all. I mean, it makes us look bad. You know, he brings it in, but when all the wiring and stuff caught on fire or melted, did that possibly, hold on, excuse me, did that possibly damage something in the generator? Did it damage the voltage regulator? And then when we put the new wiring harness in, you know, the stuff started, the voltage regulator quit charging. We put a new voltage regulator and checked the generator, and the generator was charging. And then he leaves in it, and he gets stranded because what it done is it was running off of the battery. But anyway, it makes it look bad. it makes it look like, man, we take something to Crisco's body shop and try to get one thing fixed, 5 things break. But it's not like we intentionally do it. On a greater, sweeter note, though, it with a 195 thermostat cruising, it's running at 170, so that'll give him some hot heat. Y'all stay tuned. Well, I'm never satisfied with, how do I say it? I messaged the client and I told him that it needed a sending unit, that I'd get one ordered. And he said, okay. So that wasn't good enough. I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and take this one out today and see why it's not working. Maybe they say that the floats will get a hole in them and not float. Well, I took it over to a bucket of water and it floated. But anyway, as you can see, I got this contraption wired up. And I thought, let me see if I can get you turned around. I thought to myself, well, why is it not working? See if can y'all see that? Kinda. Alright, so when I raise it up, if I raise it up high, it works on the gauge over there. But what it is this right here is like, how do I explain it? Let me think just a second. This halfway may be full. Surely it don't go all the way up to there. But anyway, with it all the way up to there, it only shows half a tank on the gauge. So that tells me that the resistance over the period of years is, I guess, getting bad, because it shouldn't need, like, okay, I've got to move it to right there before it ever moves the needle on the gauge. And so that's halfway, if y'all can see right there, that's halfway of my in between. If that bottom tab is empty and the top tab is full, then halfway would be halfway if you were just going at it like that. But if you go all the way to the full, it goes to halfway. So that tells me that the ohms inside, the resistance inside over the period of years has broken down, or not broken down, but it's not working right. Put it like that. So I'm going to get him one ordered, because unless this contraption is right, the sending unit, and the gauge only registers to halfway. See, that's what you get into. You don't really know. But I mean, if I order him one and it don't work, then, or if it don't change anything, then we'll reevaluate and we'll know that it needs a gas gauge then. It's a lot to this stuff, y'all. A lot of troubleshooting and carrying on and blah blah blah. When I had the sending unit out, I shined the light down in there, and it's hard to judge, but it didn't look like there was about, I don't know, maybe 2 inches of gas in the tank, which I know that don't tell us a whole lot. But I had a little over a gallon in a jug, and now when you turn, that moved it just enough. See it peek up out of there. So it's working, but it's still, even if we were to take it and fill it up, it's not working correctly. Either the resistance in the gas sending unit is not correct, or the gauge is bad. But like I showed you with it out, if it was all the way full, it's only going to show a half a tank. So I'm going to get him one ordered, and I hope that's what the problem is.